Welcome back to Bear Down, part of the Coach Steve Show. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
It's time to get fat. Fatter for me, but it's time. We're trying out Rumble. It's not working right now, but I'm figuring it out.
It's pulled up. I can see it.
Oh, you can?
Supposedly we have 6 people already watching, so.
There we go.
Yeah.
I had to refresh. See?
Yeah, I'm watching essentially a simulcast and seeing both sources, so don't worry. We're getting the full scope of the chat. Got it fully covered.
YouTube and Rumble.
Rumble in the jungle.
Yes, sir.
That's also describing this game coming up in Detroit. This one, tomorrow.
This could be our quickest podcast of all time because it's going against arguably top 3 best NFL teams there is, if not the best.
Well, I mean, odds makers say it's the best team in the league. They have them winning. They have them as the favorite to win the Super Bowl as of right now.
Nice. Perfect. That's what you want with a struggling team.
That being said, though, I think I'm going to pull a card and say division rules play into this game. I also think that there are opportunities for the Bears to, I would say, take advantage of some of Detroit's current flaws, mostly injury flaws on their roster. So bear with me. There are opportunities, but I think a lot of it comes down to, does this Thomas Brown offense keep developing more? And the other part of this equation, which I fully think has to play into this, are the Lions the same caliber opponent as Minnesota in terms of letting foot off the gas, miscues and mistakes throughout the contest? Because again, we've talked about this on here. We talked about it on our buddies over at Skull, talking with them. And, Minnesota kind of does that. I don't see it as much with Dan Campbell's squads. The only game that happened this year was against the Bucs. And that was quickly one and done, get right game immediately to kind of get the early season jitters out of the way for the Lions. They've won 9 straight since. So clearly been focused.
So I 100% agree that going into this game, that when it's a rival, I know it's not as big of a rival as maybe the Packers and even the Vikings, but there is a rivalry because they are so close to each other. And that when you play division rivals, that stuff is kind of up for grabs. And we saw that with the Vikings, where they were up on us big. And then even though we're struggling, we came back. So when you're playing division, it kind of goes out the window. We saw that last year where we split the series. We actually, the first game we lost to the Lions, we played actually pretty well last year against them. Now, I know this is a different Lions team. Their defense is playing well. They don't give up. I would argue they've been saying it's one of the best defenses over this win streak.
Aaron Glenn's been doing, he's been doing pretty good. No touchdowns really allowed as of late.
So his name could be poor Dan Campbell. He might have 2 coordinators in consideration for head coaching gigs in the near future. So that'll be curious to see for that. But yeah, their last 2 games, now granted it's Jacksonville and Indianapolis, they've only given up 12 points the last 2 games. And then you're beating. The argument, I think, for the Lions is their strength of schedule. And we all alluded to this kind of on the Let's Skull one. The first time I was on it was kind of alluded to the second time. You lose to Tampa Bay, but then you're taking care of business. So their schedule: Rams, Tampa Bay, Arizona, Seattle, Dallas, Minnesota, which they were up and then allowed Minnesota to come back. Tennessee, you took care of business big time. Green Bay was a close game, 24-14, but again, rival game. Everything kind of gets thrown out the window.
Quite frankly, if you go back to that game anyway, like people like you and I can discuss that Detroit kind of manhandled Green Bay that entire 4 quarters. Like it was not really close by the end. Like
No,
10 points, but like Green Bay was never really in it at home.
no. Then you beat Houston, beat Jacksonville, beat Indianapolis. Now, alluding to what you said, which I was going to say, I don't think Dan Campbell and company really care how they win. They can win 52-6. They could win 31-29. And I think sometimes I get lost in the sauce because I watch so much college football that I kind of related to the NFL. It's still the NFL. So when you be an NFL team, and this is why I love Dan Campbell. I watch every single locker room talk that they film after their game. He alludes to it. He goes, guys, it's so hard to win in the NFL. No matter who you play, it's so hard to win. So every win, we got to take it as like it's the best win we've ever had. And then he's like, do you know how hard it is to have a win streak like this in the NFL? Like, that's why I love Dan Campbell. He's so realistic about it. And like Dan Campbell and I think company are like, hey, not too long ago, some of these teams we were beating, that was us, right?
Yeah.
So we have to appreciate this. And what does NFL stand for? Not for long. So he understands that you could have a great season this year and the next year something happens where it's not as good. And so we could talk about strength of schedule, we can say whatever, but winning cures all. They would rather, let me say this. People think domination is 52-6. You can win 24-14, you can win 31-29 and still dominate like a physical game and come out with a win. So they're battle tested in close games, they're battle tested in blowouts. That's why this Lions team is so good. Now, the injuries kind of concern the Lions. People have said that to me, like, you have a chance because we are hurt.
I mean, that defense is ravaged. You've seen the IR list that they've got?
Oh,
like,
it's
stacking
huge.
up. It's a medical tent over there right now. Yeah, Anzalone going down was a massive leadership loss. I'm going to be frank.
That was big. Offensive tackle Decker is questionable. Wide receiver Raymond's questionable. Montgomery's probably going to play.
He stated he could have came back in last week. I'd be shocked if he doesn't.
St. Brown, his knee is bothering him. He was limited yesterday in practice. They've lost some guys on defense, obviously. But what's been interesting is that they've lost guys throughout the year, and they still find a way to play. And I think that's because they are bought in to what Dan Campbell and the coaching staff have put forth to them. And I think they understand what's happening, and they're playing well that way. So I don't want to put all the eggs in the basket of, well, injuries are going to hurt them against the Bears. Like, I don't want to fall down that rabbit hole yet, but it's going to allow us to maybe hopefully keep it competitive.
Well, I think, for example, having Taylor Decker in or not, that's something I'm already looking at right away. I will say our front four has not been exactly doing an amazing job as of late dialing up pressure. But I'll take any chance I can get to try and get back to Jared Goff. I'll be honest. We know that he is having and has been in that MVP conversation this year right now. Honestly, it's a weird year for MVP conversation. I don't think he's really a true clear front runner at quarterback. I think the running backs right now actually have a lot of momentum in Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. But Jared Goff's in that conversation because the efficiency he has been beyond and above what he's done in his career this season. It's outstanding. The only outlier being a 5 interception game, which will be a big scarlet letter on just that MVP run. But otherwise, the year has been outstanding. He has done everything correct. He looks polished as ever in that role in this offense. But we all know, and it's been his track record too, the key to getting Jared Goff, out of his game is to rattle his cage and get him off his guard in the pass rush. That's a tall task. Now, Taylor Decker not being in, if he does not play, which, I mean, 2 did not plays between the last 2 days, he's got to be some sort of limited practice on the day we're doing this show right now. Otherwise, good luck. He's probably not going to play. But him not being there, I think, gives at least some sort of boost. And really, I'm going to be stressing if you want to beat Detroit, you got to have someone other than Montez Sweat giving something else to get pressure. Because I mean, where's the effort here? You know, I haven't seen much clear leadership on that, trying to like establish someone who else is getting back there as that number 2 man. I think DeMarcus Walker kind of took some of that role last week, a little bit, and he's supposed to be that. I hope he does it more often. Gervin Dexter's kind of disappeared as of late, although he did get a sack last week. So, you know, kind of showed up again. Need to start seeing that more, especially with Detroit. That's the only real way, I think, if you want to mitigate and focus on making them stop on you stopping the run, you know, that you're going to get to Jared Goff, which they've done in the past successfully, but, you know, just seems like that team gets better and better every year.
Yes. And,
you know,
again, it's a tall task. We're asking the Bears defense to do something they have not done well this year. And again, I look back to like Booker, who they drafted from Kansas. He's supposed to be this edge rusher, get up to the quarterback. Where has he been? So then you start to wonder, could you have picked an offensive lineman? Could you have picked like a big interior defensive lineman? And they said this, like he's a work in progress.
Right.
So then you look back at it going, well, shit, should we have gotten somebody else? Because we're in a win now kind of mode, like
in a way. Yeah. I mean, he's had moments, but clearly this ain't going to be the year you're expecting big things out of him. We've seen that already through and through. You know, I can talk, and Goff, honestly, I think is the key, but what would really help, and I think what's got a lot of Bears fans on edge that I've talked to, this is the best running team in the NFL.
Yes.
Bar none. And Chicago's massive flaw, and one that up until last week, I thought everyone was just going to lean on it, but Minnesota's Minnesota. It's the run game. They know that they can get runs on them for 5-6 yards a clip in most cases.
Yeah, they have.
I do not trust Ben Johnson to bail on the run just for the sake of I need to run my pass game. He's shown that all year. I still see people that are Rams fans on X that take shots at the Lions because, well, they only won because they ran on us. It's like, yes, because they're a really good run team. Like, if you can't beat you, if you aren't going to stop it, you know, if you can't stop them, they're going to keep doing it. That's a good OC, you know.
What a dumb statement. They only beat us because they ran the ball. It's a part of the game. Stop the run. And Ben Johnson.
This whole Rams-Lions thing, it's a rabbit hole. I've seen so many people. There are Rams fans that are rent-free about the Lions. It is crazy.
Get over it. You know what? If a team wins and they pass the ball 4 times and they run the ball the rest of the time and they win the game, do you think Dan Campbell and company really give a crap about that?
No.
No, they don't.
Hell no. And they won't if they know for a fact that and I'm going to reference the nicknames here, that Knuckles and Sonic can do whatever the hell they want in the middle of that soft interior line, then by all means they're going to keep doing it, which then, as we've talked, you're going to find opportunities. Jared Goff thrives in over the middle passes. He's going to find Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to find Jameson Williams. Hope you imagine so. Sam Laporte is going to get open. You know, those are some worries right there.
Well, you know? That's kind of what you're hitting the nail on the head. They have 2 running backs, Gibbs and Montgomery, 886 rushing yards, 632 rushing yards. You have Thunder and Lightning back there.
Jesus Christ.
And
you might have 2,000-yard rushers by the end of the season. Think about that.
Right. And
oh my God.
And they have accounted for 21 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, 21 of them. And then Jared Goff has thrown for 20. So that's a lot of points that they have scored. Jared Goff is 72% completion rating, which is good. He's been sacked 21 times compared to like Caleb Williams 45 or whatever it is. And guess what having that run game is going to do? Play action, suck up the guys. And do you not think Ben Johnson is salivating at like, hey, what did the Vikings do to that Bears secondary that allowed all these big plays? That's what they're going to look at.
It brings a lot of questions now. I mean, think about it. You know, I don't think that, and I'm kind of tracking back a little bit. I don't think you're going to see Matt Eberflus do the same game plan where it's like sell out on Monroe St. Brown and hope to God that we can manage the other bigger weapons in that receiving core. I think they're just going to see and be like, you get your number. And my hope is that you get your numbers, but we stop you when it matters most. That's what I hope is a game plan, because clearly selling out for one is not a good idea. Not when you have good options like we saw with Addison, and Laporta is going to be able to do that all day. Jamison Williams, if he isn't just being thrown stream routes chucked down the field, he can get open wherever he wants. You know, they got depth at the spots in the receiving course. That's what's scary for me too.
Right, but I just think if they get the run game going, and Jared Goff is such a good play action quarterback and able, because he's a pure pocket quarterback. He's not a pitter patter runner. But
fun pause. I did not realize this, but so first off, two receivers I didn't mention. One, Tim Patrick, who's actually having a really good year by his standards, coming over from Denver. Remember, he was like considered the next big target over there.
Right.
Didn't fully pan out. He's been having a solid year. But the other one, I didn't realize, and he hasn't really gotten action this year, Steve. But do you know Allen Robinson's on the Detroit Lions?
Is he really?
He's the depth piece. He has 2 catches this year.
Oh, maybe that. Oh God, he'll have a breakout day.
Can you imagine? Think about this. Montgomery, one of the last games we played last season, he had basically his revenge game in Detroit. So I don't think this will happen, but is this where like discarded, disgruntled, couldn't get the deal done Bears go to seek revenge?
And my guy from Illinois, Isaiah Williams, is on the Bears team or the Lions. He has 2 catches as well.
Okay. I sense a pattern here.
I don't see Allen Robinson again. If they, unless those guys are banged up, you might see him slotted in there from a time. Or Dan Campbell's super smart and Ben Johnson's super smart. You can't tell me that in the red zone they might just throw him in there and be like, let's see if we can't get you the ball.
Right. I totally spaced that he got signed by Detroit. But I mean, then again, his fall off in LA, for one reason or another, a spectacular fall off. My God.
Because he is second string to one of the receivers. So you never know.
You never know.
You never know of him. You don't think they would definitely.
No. They've got, like I said, Allen Robinson's time's passed now. He got his money. He had good seasons, but he is not the guy you want to go. Williams, Patrick, and St. Brown easily could do damage, and Laporta's there as well. It's a lot of people are focusing on that side of the ball. That's going to be key. Like, can Chicago find some way to slow down anything there? Because like it's a banged up defense on the opposite side, clearly. And we see Thomas Brown is getting the offense in the right gears last week. But what happens when that offense isn't efficient enough? Because even we saw with Minnesota, yeah, sure, they're not getting home all the time, but all it takes is a few bad miscues on pre-snap penalties, or 1 or 2 plays that just didn't get functionally ran correctly, has been Chicago's issues. And well, now you're hoping that Detroit doesn't just go down and just find easy paths towards the end zone.
Yeah, I feel like the secondary is going to play better, but even though they were all selling out on one receiver, Ben Johnson is still going to look at what the Vikings did and said, like, is there things that we have in our playbook that can be similar? So maybe it's not a, Addison getting 162 yards, but they can look at it and say, if we play action here, get them to look this, like just a bunch of stuff that he can do with the 2 running backs, because we got to sell it on the run. And the moment we start doing that, that's what I'm afraid of. And my fear here is it's the chess match between Matt Eberflus and Ben Johnson. Who wins that? And Matt Eberflus has a great defensive mind that he is. the defense, even this past couple weeks, they're doing good things, but they're not doing exactly what we are accustomed to seeing, even from that win streak of last year as we ended the season. So Ben Johnson could be his audition for the Bears head coaching job. Like, hey, look what I can do.
Maybe, maybe he sees a really good day from Caleb Williams and then goes, you know what? Maybe I don't have to be picky. Maybe that is where I need to go. And I'll fully believe that that's going to be an open position.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, Fox Sports, and this drove me nuts if you know me, Steve, they actually marked Eberflus's seat as less hot after last week.
Oh, I was getting to that, Zach, because I saw
stating offensive production. Caleb was looking better with development. Maybe I'm like, no, you didn't. You clearly didn't watch the game or saw what else happened. Please stop talking right now.
I was going to bring that up, and since you brought it up, let's bring it up. Like, I too saw that on Fox.
Like, please stop talking, Fox. I'm actually going to bring this up so I can say the actual reporter's name right away because it kills me because I'm like, look, we can talk head coaching duties all day, and we can run circles around the fact that the man is not the right person for the job. You know, just because someone's on your staff and you swap them in, I just don't buy that instantly wins you over. You know what I'm saying? I don't get that. Oh my God. I'll find it really quick, but go right ahead.
There was
I don't understand it.
The first time I saw it was an ESPN radio, and he goes, I have a hot take. Matt Eberflus is going to keep his job. And the lady goes, okay, why do you think that? And he said, well, Caleb Williams is showing what he can do. And there's been injuries. And I'm like, oh, God, here we go.
No.
And then he's like, Caleb Williams' development depends on consistency. So now the fact that you have Thomas Brown, and it seems like he's very playing better under him. But then he also said this. He goes, you got to win games. If they don't win another game, he obviously loses his job. He goes, but if they find a way to somehow close the deal like they should have against Green Bay and close the deal against the Vikings, and they win a couple of these games that they have left, he goes, they could go 7-10 again, just like they did last year. He goes, if they go 7-10 and you see production from Caleb Williams like you've seen, he goes, I predict Matt Eberflus keeps his job. And then yesterday and this morning, I saw a guy that I respect as an offensive lineman, Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday goes on the Get Up,
right,
and he goes, Matt Eberflus is probably going to keep his job as long as Caleb Williams continues to develop. It's a long 2-minute clip. And Jeff Saturday was talking about, look how much better he's doing. Thomas Brown's got it, is going to get it going. That's what he's seeing. And he goes, you need consistency because if you bring a new guy in, that means Thomas Brown's probably gone. So now Caleb Williams has to learn something new. And so he's like, you got to keep this in there. And then he brought up this. He goes, well, what about Dan Campbell when they were like 1-something? He goes, the fans got mad and they want him gone. But now look what's happened. They've got it turned around and everything else. He's not the only one. There's a ton of people now. First, they were saying fire him. Now they're saying because Caleb Williams is playing better that they need to keep Matt Eberflus.
The flip is so extreme. The flip here is just, this is why I go crazy. This is why I go crazy because, there's a difference between analyzing a flip and putting in someone who's on your staff. Remember, Shane Waldron was Matt's guy. I think this is getting lost very quickly. Matt Eberflus put in the resume for Shane Waldron. Keep this in mind. He has that control to bring in the personnel he wants. He put in for Shane. Shane was Matt's man. He could have stuck with Thomas Brown. He did not stick with Thomas Brown. Brown was on the staff for reasons, of course. But come on.
So
really?
A guy that I really don't like, Adam Rank. I don't really like him from the
Rank. As a Bears fan, whatever, but as a guy who gives takes, he's very Homer-esque in giving takes. He does not usually try and look at both sides of the equation with his team, mind you.
this was back on November 7th, even. Now, this before all this bullshit has happened, he said that there's indication that Eberflus comes back. People that are close with the situation. Chris Conti is his name on the ESPN radio, or not ESPN radio, some radio.
You mean the Chris Conti or a different Chris Conti?
The Chris Conti said he's the one that said Matt Eberflus is going to keep his job set on ESPN 1000 on the radio show. Jeff Saturday has said that Matt Eberflus is probably going to keep his job because of this development. And I'm sitting there going, okay, let me say it in this way. If we didn't have all the other issues and this was happening, sure.
What is people? Go ahead. Keep finishing. I have something to say with this. Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, let's just look at his track record. There's been head coaching decision flounders. The way he defends them is bad. Like, an example, I'm going to keep talking about the Lions head coach, Dan Campbell. When he goes forward on a fourth down or does something, he comes to the podium. He's very emotional. He goes, I let those guys down. They didn't do it. Like, what they did, I did it.
He is great at taking responsibility for something, which is not a Eberflus trait whatsoever, mind you, at all.
And if it is, it's not public. I'd rather see it public like Dan Campbell. He just goes up there and says, whatever. So there's those things. Did you hear the reasoning for that fourth down where he wasn't on the right channel on the freaking headset to say we're going for it? Like, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Your special teams coordinator is even on the field. You could be yelling from the sideline without the headset. You could be on the offensive headset side and say, we're going for it. And he looks at Hightower. No, off. Like, put up a hand, like saying, hey, there's those blunders. We haven't fixed the field goal stuff. The constant staff changes. You brought in Shane Waldron and said this was going to fix it, and it didn't fix it. So there's constant after this. If all those things have not happened, if the question of getting the guys to play all the time didn't happen, and then the fact that it took him to become a defensive coordinator to fix some of these things, if all this stuff has not happened, and this was the case to make, I would understand it. If all those things have not happened, and you go, Caleb Williams is developing, maybe he should keep his job. If they win some games, I could sit back and understand where you're coming from. But now we're just reaching for straws here, in my opinion. And I'm going to finish it with this point. If we didn't have the roster that we have, if we did not have some of the weapons, and we didn't have some of this, and you saw Caleb Williams developing, there could also be a case for that. But the fact of what we have and what's going on, again, I said this, do it respectfully, even if it's Friday. Hey, we appreciate you. We tore this team down. You helped build it back up. You did what you were supposed to do. It's just we're in a situation where we don't see it going the way we think it should go. We appreciate it, though. You are going to find a job. And we will call somebody and say, this should be your defensive coordinator. That's what they should do. Like Ryan Poles and company should say, hey, wherever you go to interview for a defensive coordinator head job, tell them to call me immediately. I'm going to tell them all the good things you do on defense and that you need this job. And I think that'd be the most respectful thing. But now I just feel like everybody's grabbing at stuff right now.
Yeah. This hurts me because there's a world here where you can let him go and retain or keep on Thomas Brown. I think that's what part of is driving this conversation right now is that besides the fact, Thomas Brown, they just switched him out and he's having success or they're seeing more success. Not saying it's been instant. They still haven't won a game with him under there. And again, you could make a very valid argument that Minnesota kind of wrapped a dramatic finish in Soldier Field last Sunday. But putting this in perspective, people do like Thomas Brown. He brings a good energy. He talks well at the podium. He has better offensive awareness and understanding of what makes these guys tick. Cool. That's fine. there is a world where you can move on from Matt Eberflus, bring in a head coach, and keep on the same similar personnel. You can't keep all, not everyone be retained. But if you do and see and put a resume together, you can keep this guy on. Or, as we've talked, let him discuss and be open for the head coaching spot if you like him that much. I mean, clearly he's demanding respect from players. He's getting a lot of good praise for being forward thinking and keeping energy and focus on the game plan. So why not give it a consideration? Plus, he was an assistant head coach in the past. He already knows some of the details needed to help run a football team. So there's a world where you can just get a better option. But I am consistently baffled that not only our local media with Chicago, but now the national media continues to give passes to a mediocre head coach because, well, this thing happened or this. No, just if you've watched any of these games, you can see that there are mediocre things happening at that specific position. It's not really hard to see. There's reasons why we are 4-7 right now. There's reasons why he is not finished with a winning record and is the third losingest head coach in Chicago Bears history. This isn't a Dan Campbell scenario. Dan Campbell came in. He was looking like he'd be a lame duck in a season and turned things around in season 2 is what happened there. Now that's what people are trying to argue. Well, this will be the year. Watch. They'll kick things off. Caleb just had 340 yards. They'll run the table, maybe finish like 9-8 or something like the Lions did. And I'm thinking, no, I don't feel like they will.
No.
And I think you should be thinking that either. I think they'll be competitive. They're going to be pests. Like if you go into this game thinking Detroit's going to get that over on that -10 betting line, I think you're insane. I'd take the under all day. Chicago's going to keep it close. They've kept these games close against Detroit for years now. It's a divisional game in the NFC North. But come on, man. Who are we playing here?
Well, that's the thing. Every single time that I've listened to somebody bring this up, it somehow circles back to Dan Campbell because it's the Lions.
But how? They're not even, it's not in the same spectrum. They completely carry themselves different. Like, how is someone going and making a logical leap to Dan Campbell?
I think it's because of how bad they were, and they did a similar thing in let's rebuild this team. But here's my question. And here, I'm going to say 2 things. There's always an exception to the rule, right? Dan Campbell is that exception. Fine. That's awesome. I love Dan Campbell. He carries himself differently. You saw in Hard Knocks how he relates. And he talks about all I think about, like, the way he goes about it is different than Matt Eberflus. And that's okay.
Right.
And Dan Campbell's way is working right now with the people he has. Matt Eberflus's way, it does not seem to be working. So there's that part of it. Another thing, and I'd have to be corrected on this. Yes, the Lions were struggling, but did management see improvements even in those losses? Were there improvements somewhere along the way? In my opinion, we are not seeing those besides him taking over defensive play calling in the middle of the year or a little bit halfway through the middle of the year. That's the only improvement which helped him keep his job, because then you were hoping that he would have more fingerprints on things and maybe that would be the key to move things forward. The other thing is now you have a rookie quarterback, so that's the next excuse. Okay, then we want to see development. We saw him struggle the first couple games. Then they figured it out. Then he sucked again. Now it's back. In my opinion, why was he sucking? Why was he okay? Why was he sucking? And now why is he back to being that way? It's Thomas Brown, in my opinion. That's why I said these players have talked so highly of Thomas Brown. I am not seeing high praise talk about Matt Eberflus. I'm seeing high praise talk about Thomas Brown, in my opinion.
That's all I've read as well. It's the only thing that keeps being brought up from the players.
Matt Eberflus is 5-18 in one-score games. He is 0-17 on the road on Sundays. He is 3-18 overall on the road, and he's 2-11 in the NFC North. In the high market of Chicago and the history of Chicago, this does not go well with the standard that we proceed. Now, we understand the last 2 years you tore everything down. Okay, you and I said that years ago. You're tearing it down. We understand what's going on. Now we just want to see improvement.
We did.
Last year, the halfway through the year, we started to see it, right? Yes, some people wanted him fired. I was on the train of I was okay either way. I'd be okay if they got rid of him and somebody else. I completely understand why you keep him and just kind of hope that something else happens. It looked that way from Hard Knocks, like things were changing. You got to see the inside of it, the way Matt Eberflus talked to the players. I respected the relationship he had, the way they were acting. I was like, cool, maybe they are going to turn a corner, and maybe we are going to compete for that wild card spot. Obviously, it's not happening. And so with this roster that you have that is built to win now, mind you, this is not a one more year and we're going to win then. It's to win some games now, and it's just not getting it done. So we need to stop grasping for straws unless we go on and win the rest of our freaking games. Like,
I mean, hey, yeah. If they finish 10-7, which that would be the rest of the games. So, that was the scenario, which at that point, given how I would say, given how the NFC playoff picture is rolling out, I still don't believe they would make it with the current format in the NFC's powerhouses, but 10-7 would be attainable. I don't believe that happens though. But I will tell you, and again, I hate being this way, that narrative will get dragged up and be even louder if they do win against Detroit. Which, hey, you know what? I would love to have a win on Thanksgiving Day as well. But if it's already with a close loss, just like I said, just imagine if they beat Detroit here for a second. Come Monday morning, that will be or Friday, whenever 670, ESPN 1000, you name it, goes on air. CH Go as well. We'll throw them in there too. Any local media, whoever the hell does Marquee Sports Network's Bears show, I forget. There's no Robbie Gold's on it. They'll all say the same thing. Look, they've turned a corner. Maybe we can stick with this group. And it's like, I just don't buy that. But that's what's going to happen, and that's what the McCaskies will think too, is the deal. But I can't think like that. My thing is, can they beat Detroit? That's the big question right now. We can't think about the what ifs. We have to see, can they beat Detroit? To me, because they split last year, and that was considered a worse roster, mind you. We split last year with them. That was at home, though. I still buy that there's credence they can get it done. But it's an uphill battle. The Lions fandom's at its peak. Clearly, it is matching levels honestly, like Chiefs Kingdom or even like Seattle fans. Like, freaking Detroit's hard to play in now, from teams are saying. Like, it's a hard place to play. So, maybe that's the factor that I'm worried about a lot. Mostly my issues are actually defensive side of the ball, like we talked about. Which one do you stop, and how do you mitigate or slow down your passing or rushing attack? Turnovers help. That's going to be the main answer. But I mean, if they're taking care of the ball, how do you slow them down? That's my thing. Bend don't break defense, hopefully. Red zone defense, yes. I would have to say. That's all I can think right now.
Yeah, there's a slimmer of hope that they get it done due to the injuries. The injuries at the
massively the injuries, yes.
And it's a short week for both teams. And listening to these NFL coaches over the years, they say when it's a very short week, there's not much you're going to do. Like, there's not much. Like, it's a simple defensive playbook. It's a simple offensive playbook because you don't have time. You don't have your Monday through Saturday to get things done. You have Monday through Wednesday. And so there's really not a lot that you could do. And so it comes down to the injuries. It comes down, and keeping it simple is great for Caleb Williams. Like, that's going to be awesome to keep it simple. But doubt starts to creep in when you're in these close games and you're just not getting it done, and frustration starts to sink in. And it's Thanksgiving Day. And I know the Lions really don't play well on Thanksgiving, but it's Dan Campbell now. They're on this win streak. He's keeping them humble. You have two former Bears, even though Allen Robinson's not probably going to play. You have two guys that are out there that are going to be pumped up, ready to go. The Lions want to make a statement in NFC North and say, we really just want to put the Bears down even more. That place is loud. Like, I guarantee it's sold out. I guarantee it's going to be loud. It's the hoopla of Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the injuries, they seem to put pressure on quarterbacks without all that. Their defense is confident. It's going to come down to, Ben, don't break. It's going to come down to, can you just get to Jared Goff like twice or three times? Like, can you just hitting him, not even a sack, just give him a nice shot. And then it's going to come down to, can we continue to finish drives on offense? Does Caleb Williams continue to make good decisions? Does he get rid of the ball quick? The offensive line's been pass protecting well up until like the very last moments of the fourth quarter and overtime. If they can do that and Caleb Williams gets rid of the ball and these guys continue to make plays, and I don't think Thomas Brown probably put in too much more, because you saw he put more in the offense, the way it looked different.
Oh yeah, more time means more expanding, more possibilities. Yeah,
yeah. With the short week, I don't foresee much more added, but he'll continue to motion. He'll continue to put DJ Moore in the backfield and move people around. They go, where's DJ Moore? Oh, wait a minute, he's running back, and now you're messing with them a little bit. The big thing is, can we run the freaking ball? Like, we just really – I will say this. Since Thomas Brown's taken over, he's trying to run the football, but it's just not –
it's not all there. Yeah.
No. DeAndre Swift's kind of been, since this has happened, is not performing. His big breakaways are those toss plays or something big that happens, which is awesome, but like just consistently running the football hasn't really –
well, between the tackles running, I think is what you're trying to allude to. Because, yes, like when they've been able to pull – a guard or pull a tackle and get them outside, they've had their most success. They did against Green Bay. I mean, DeAndre Swift had 75 plus yards carrying. I don't have the exact number off top, but I know he had upwards of 75 plus yards carrying on the day, including a 39-yard rushing touchdown. So, but that came on outside runs and just kind of generating and focusing in on that. Last week, Minnesota is the best rush defense in the NFL. I know that talking with some of our school buddies that, yes, teams have leaned into getting after their pass attack, whatever. We ran 13 times with DeAndre Swift, barely got over 30 yards last week. So it's hit or miss. And quite frankly, it's going to come down to Detroit's defensive performance. And that's why people are queuing in on it, Steve, as well. It's, again, banged up defense, although not as much on the front four, unless you want to count Aiden Hutchinson, which fair. But Zadarius Smith is there, and is his first game back in action, was already ranked high by PFF. He was an impact in there, no sacks, but made his presence known at least in that first game. So that's a player I'm watching out for right away. That, and with Alex Anzalone not being there, are there opportunities?
Right. And you know what's amazing? There's that Dan Campbell and I keep giving credit to him, but I gotta give credit to the staff outside of him. That defensive staff is getting the most out of the guys from the injuries. Like, these next guys that step in, they're still finding ways to get them to be productive. So that
for real.
The whole defensive staff has been amazing over there. And I know it starts with Campbell, but and he'll never take credit. He straight up says, like, that's my staff. I got to hire a good staff, and he's figured it out. The fact that they're able to do that shows why they are where they are right now. And yes, I'm getting tired of comparing like to what they're doing there, because we took a similar-ish path of tearing it down, trying to build it up, and it's just not there yet.
Yeah.
But you got to give them credit. So even though there's injuries, they are still very competitive. But with that stuff happening, there is still always a glimmer of hope, or that window slightly open that you could somehow pull away a win. But the fact that the Lions during this time have won some close games, like I told you, Matt Eberflus, he doesn't win in one-score games. Like, it just doesn't happen. The fact that they're all veteran now at this, that's what scares you a little bit, is that if the Bears do keep it close, which team is going to pull it out. And you kind of lean towards the Lions. The Bears are right there. The Packers game, the Vikings game, they're right there to do it. But then it does scare me as if they do it, Matt Eberflus keeps his job. And here we go again.
Yeah, and at this point, I throw my hands up because like I've had this conversation way too much, and I'm tired of trying to get this going because clearly, I get it. Bears fans, you get a lot of bad, you get a lot of heartbreak. You don't want to focus on it, but like, look, it's reality. Like that has to me, that has to happen. But if they do win, it's going to change over. You're going to see people focusing on, well, maybe we can make a wild card run. Similar to what happened last year. Remember, there were talks later in the year when we were on that winning streak that people were going, oh, maybe wild cards in the cards if we just don't give up some losses. And it's like, no, that's not the case. But I mean, hey, it was fun while we talked about it, I guess. We got to 7 and 9, you know what I'm saying?
So, if the Vikings weren't having the year they're having and stuff like that, I would not sit here and say that it's like if they were having a worse season than they were, like I thought they were, I would understand where people come up with that. Like, oh, the wild cards are the spot. Well, you got the Vikings sitting there at 9-2. The Packers are the Packers. You got these other NFC teams that are starting to like churn. So it's just like too little, too late. Like we gave up so many wins that or possibility of wins that to me, looking at the schedule, you are not doing this. Like,
yeah,
you could probably split the Lions. Seahawks is a possibility. 49ers are a possibility. I could sit here and tell you they'll get the Vikings this next time around, but it just all depends on how we're playing and what is
US
happening.
Bank as well.
You're on the road. The window is barely open for that. To me, it's almost shut. I don't even want to get into the conversation of wild card. I'm not into that right now, unless they go on some streak that I am not predicting. But I'm done with that. It's just now it's about pride. Now it's about showing why you deserve to play football. Now it's about, getting this offense to look right. Thomas Brown is auditioning for an OC spot or possible head coach spot.
I'm hoping leaning the coaching spot, but in terms of an interview, but OC minimum, like that's the thing. And I don't know. I just hate thinking about that if that's the case. But the like I said, window for this for the game against Detroit, there is a slight again. Any rivalry game, any division game, I always have to add a little bit of an asterisk in saying there is a chance. There is a chance. Any division game can be a toss-up unless it's Green Bay, because Green Bay just freaking has our number now. But there's always a chance. My thing is, do you find ways to slow down Detroit's offense? Can you have a Houston Texans game where you basically go, hey, we just cause a lot of havoc, and then we just need to not be detrimental to ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing. Detroit feels like even a different level than last year, where it's like, okay, well, you may have put us away, but did you really put us away though? Like that's the type of team we're dealing with this year. Like, no, that's a squad you have to make sure that you're putting them away. And I'm not sure I see that at a home in Detroit, with the offense that the Lions currently possess. And, Aaron Glenn's doing a great job at managing what limited roster he's got on that side.
Right.
They've got basically an incredible head coach and two candidates that might also make incredible head coaches as coordinators right now. It's pretty bonkers how stacked that staff is.
Oh yeah, that's what it's going to come down to is players executing, allowing them not to lose a close one, and the chess match you're going to see between these coaches versus each other.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see the Matt Eberflus and Ben Johnson chess match. And like I said, do I believe they could split with the Lions? Yes. Is it going to happen tomorrow at their place?
Well, what do you think? You're jumping in right now, so
I I don't think so. Because if I remember correctly from last year, we played them really well at home.
Well, we did for the first 2.5 quarters. That was the game. If you'll remember this right off the gate, the Bears had it in the bag. They had a double-digit lead, squandered. David Montgomery scores the game-winning touchdown. And then Aiden Hutchinson gets the game-winning interception.
So last year, we went to the Lions and lost 31-26.
Yes.
Then at home, we won 28-13 against the Lions. And that's what scares me, is that when you go play there, they give you the Lions seem to give you some hope, and then they take it away, right? Because they're at home.
Mm-hmm.
Same type of thing where last year it was Detroit, Minnesota, Detroit. So I think that allowed the Bears to be like, we literally just played you. And, the Bears pulled out a win against the Vikings at the Vikings last year, 12-10 last year.
Yep.
So I don't know if that played a factor into it, but we had a bye week. We had Detroit, Minnesota, bye week, Detroit. So I think it was, we literally just played you. We have a bye week. We have more of a chance to get ready for you. This year, I want to check real quick before I think about this. We have some time before we play Detroit again. We got San Francisco, Minnesota, Detroit.
A little bit of a spread.
The fact that it's at Detroit, I don't think they will get it for a few reasons. Obviously, at Detroit.
Yep.
The Lions are hot even with injuries. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. The Bears are not in a good place. Those Bears fans have to hear, or the Bears have to hear everything that's being said about everything. So that's going to start to creep in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if our coaches, I think Thomas Brown will be fine, believe it or not. I think the offense will continue. We're going to see everything that we're seeing, and it's going to be fine. That chess match, Thomas Brown's going to win some of them. He's going to lose some of them. I feel okay with that. Our defense is going to bend a little bit. They just cannot break. They cannot allow big plays. They cannot allow first and longs to get completed. They can't allow third and longs to be completed. I would feel better about being at home soon because that offense will have a few weeks to continue to grow and get better.
True.
I don't see it as a blowout because it's a rival. It's the NFC North.
Right.
It'll be a close one. The Lions are not known for scoring 50-some points. I know they have the last 2 weeks, but I think the Bears are better than the two teams they just played.
Well, yeah, I mean, Detroit scoring 52 on a Jacksonville squad run by Mac Jones as the QB. I'm not saying you should expect 52 every week, but damn,
So I think the Lions win. I'm going to give a random ass score just because you never know.
Random, you say?
Random. 23-20.
That is kind of random. A little.
I think the Lions win 23-20.
Yeah. I'm going to do this for the sake of argument. And it's because I also see two streaks, and I'm going to see one, I think, come to an end. I'm going to go with that Chicago finds a way to get the divisional upset on Thursday. And yes, the ramifications will be that Matt Eberflus just needed to find the right offensive coordinator, and then that's going to make Chicago the next big thing, and that Caleb Williams, will continue to develop. I do believe Caleb Williams will have another solid game. Will be 340 yards to be determined, but part of why I'm leaning as an upset is I am banking on that the secondary of Detroit does not have a great day, is how I will look at it. Mm-hmm. Kendall Vildor is in as the starter, and I know that he has been serviceable in Detroit, but I mean, he hasn't been great this year. I've looked up into him a little bit more. They don't really have like a crazy lockdown guy. They are getting Emmanuel Mosley back this week. That is the one thing I have to mention. Credit first week off IR again, but that could make or break how I view this as a win, because having any quality corner back with them on a defense that has been ravaged by injury, that can change some things really quick, is what I will be honest with.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where hopefully where I'm seeing a win is I think that is they're going to try and be smart, target that intermediate passing game. You're going to see the passes come out quickly like they have been. The stats show that he's been getting passes out near half a second quicker in the last few games, which is fantastic. Near no pass rush is going to be able to get to you if you're getting it out in 2.49 seconds. So that's what I'm banking on. It's not a fully confident one. I still think Detroit very much could easily make this a game where you're like, dear God, if they don't fire Matt Eberflus on a Friday or like next week, we are in the living hell for the rest of the season. But I can see it possible. Detroit has a 9-game win streak, and while I think that is fantastic, and I could see this game going ugly, Chicago's played them well. The same team last year played them tough both times, and long streaks like that are hard to manage, is all I can say, especially with more stacking injuries on the side of the ball. That I think is going to get tested the most with how quick the Bears are getting the ball out of the hands of their quarterback and into playmakers' hands this time. It's going to be a playmakers deal. It's going to be, can you get your playmakers involved, and can the Lions defense scheme enough well or make enough plays well to slow down the Bears on that side? Or will Chicago take a step back? I don't think they will, but that's up for debate because Chicago's done this type of song and dance this year. So I am throwing that out there. But I'm going to go with Chicago. I think this time Cairo Santos lands on the right side of a winning field goal.
Literally on the right side.
On the right side of a winning field goal. And I think they walk away. And I'm going to be a little more bullish on points after last week trying to be like skittish. Give me 34-31 Chicago.
Ooh.
And that's pretty ballsy for me to say that because saying they'll score 34 something, but I think it's just because they played Detroit so tight in recent years. I think there's a chance, but it's really going to come down to how quickly Caleb keeps going up and up and how much they can take advantage of some of the mismatches that might be available with their passing. The run game, if any DeAndre Swift action, I think is extra gravy. And then any good red zone defense will make this possible. That's it. If this is like a touchdown fest and Detroit just keeps scoring every drive, I'll just say whatever. I gave my shot at this take, but it's not a confident take whatsoever. I'll take Detroit, but I more so want it for the sake of F it. Don't complain about the what ifs. Just play it out and try and have a good weekend and just see what goes. I'll be flying to Detroit to meet my aunt and uncle anyway and watching it on a phone. So I won't even be able to really react to anything until I land after the game in Detroit, Michigan at the airport.
Oh, if shit goes wrong, you're going to look at your phone and be like, why Steve sent 15 text messages? Like, fuck this, fuck that.
I'll at least have American Airlines, so I'll get Fox content. But yeah, still.
Now, there is a hashtag I saw. It said fire. I've been hashtagging all week. Fire flus. One pops up every time I type it in. It says Fire Flus Friday. And it's been going on since the weekend.
Well, the next best time, we've talked about this. Like, if you want to make a change and be serious, it's then, or you wait to the end of the year. It's now or never.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen Friday, it's not happening.
But I almost hate to say it. It's going to take like an embarrassingly blowout loss on a national stage where they become 4-8 and essentially put the final nail in the coffin to what I think will be a chance to get to a playoff spot.
Yep. But if it doesn't happen Friday, I never want to talk about it again. Like, are they going to fire him? No, they're not.
Are they
They're
going to
not
fire him?
doing it. They're not doing it. They'll do it the day after the season's over, hopefully. And I'll go on a limb. If it doesn't happen the day after the season's over, it's not happening either.
No. 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 No, I mean, if they come Black Monday, you don't see that man's name, that means you're stuck for year 4.
And then you and I just become.
Apparently, Thomas Brown was the solution all along, and we just got to keep building that line. Hopefully,
and then you could just be a Chargers fan with me when that happens,
and we can just root for Jim Harbaugh together.
That's hey, it will probably have a better time than watching what's happening now. Or do we just put in our resignation and just say, Detroit, you win. We are bowing down. We are now Detroit fans. We could call this the Lion Den.
Look, I'm just happy for
the name.
I'm just happy for Detroit fans, period. Like any franchise that has gone through a living hell to support its team that is now like in the position they are to where it's like, hey, we could actually go and run the table. Like we have a team that's considered a run the table team right now. Like, yeah, you know what? Bravo to you. I don't like out of all the divisional opponents we have, Detroit's the one where I like give the most a pass to where I'm like, you know what? Bravo, at least.
Oh, yeah. I'm rooting for them to win the Super Bowl. I want them to win the Super Bowl.
I also am the same. If they're in the Super Bowl, they are my favorite for the Super. They are my favorite team then. And that would be hard to say because if it's like people have been fantasizing Buffalo, Detroit as a matchup this year, which to me is the people's championship because no matter what happens, some fan base is getting a Lombardi trophy that has never had one.
Oh yeah, because see, I like the Bills too. Like, there's a part of me that's like, I want to be part of Bills Mafia. That looks fun.
Bills Mafia is fun. It looks very fun every time I watch them.
You know, like I'm always a Bears fan first, but there's all those teams that we just kind of sit there and go, that'd be, I kind of like them. Bills have always been up there. And the Lions, actually. I know they're NFC North, but the Lions, you kind of respect. Like, I mean, think about it. Like, how long ago was it? They were just 0-16 and we saw the bags over their heads and stuff like that. Like, going from that to this, finally just putting their foot down, good for them. I am rooting for them to win the Super Bowl because the Bears have no shot. So that's why I'm rooting for them. And if they keep Matt Eberflus, we're changing this podcast to the Lion Den. No longer Bear Down, it's the Lion Den.
I'll still wear my gear, but I will also be very bitter.
Or we could change it to the Chargers and call it the Charged Up.
Charged Up. That wouldn't be bad for a name. Charged Up.
It's copyrighted. Nobody fucking steal it. I'm going to copyright it right now.
Don't you dare. You leave Steve out of this.
People on Rumble, you better not steal this. I'm coming after you.
We just started on Rumble. Please do not be that guy. Oh my God.
Any given Sunday. Yep, there it is.
Any given Sunday. I mean, that's the thing. Like we saw last week. And again, I know I've been hammering home that Minnesota basically tried to give away a game that they had every chance to put away. But it is still any given Sunday. Chicago made it a game. Like Caleb Williams was asked to do things that he did very well with the situation he was given. So as long as you do enough to win, none of the context really matters is all that happens at the end of the day.
Except for this week, it's any given Thursday.
Any given Thursday. Any given Thirsty Thursday. Any given Thanksgiving.
Yep. Well, happy Thanksgiving to all. Make sure you eat lots of food and get fat or fatter, as I will be. I'll be wearing a nice hoodie tomorrow, so that way it can just expand and it'll be nice.
Yeah.
So this is funny. I'm going to the in-laws, and I said I only have one request, and my wife goes, "What?" I was like, I have to watch football on Thanksgiving.
Oh. Is that possibly a thing that wouldn't happen? Like it's almost synonymous with Thanksgiving anymore. You turn a football game on.
Well, I'm very like when I go to the in-laws, I don't want to be like, give me the TV. Like, no, I'll do what you guys want to do. If he loves NASCAR. So if NASCAR's on, I'll sit there like, I just don't want to walk in the house and be like, it's my house now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they they'll be fine. She's like, my brother will probably watch it with you. I'm like, perfect. Just go to the basement, turn it on, watch it. Now, but here's the difference, though. I'll watch the Bears game, but if I try to watch other football, they might be like, "Oh, it's not the Bears." So
yeah, I mean, you should. Good news is Thanksgiving, unlike Sundays, you can just kind of it goes meanders one to the next.
yeah,
Maybe some overflow with like the Cowboys playing, but
yeah,
like, are you
my
really going to watch the Cowboys Giants in like over a Bears game? Like, come on, really? With Tommy
so
DeVito and the way he looked last week, and Cooper Rush looked okay, but like, still, are you really going to turn that one on? Like,
because if I used to go to my parents' house for Thanksgiving all the time, and now that my family's expanding, you got to make decisions and choose.
true.
At home, I'd always have football on because I'd be home, so football would be on. My dad is a Cowboys fan, so they would be on. He's a Bears Cowboys fan. I don't know how that happened, but
I don't know either. That's a very good question.
he's a Cubs fan, Cowboys fan, Bears fan.
I had my uncle was a Cowboys fan while my dad was a Bears fan. So to be fair, it's not the first time I've seen it, but like he wasn't like my uncle wasn't a Bears fan at the same time either. He really liked the Tom Landry.
Oh yeah.
And like, Tom Landry years is all I can tell you.
The good times.
The good times.
Not what's happening to them now. No, I have no interest. I mean, if the Cowboys Giants is on, yes, you'll watch it, but like I'm not gonna sit there and go, oh my God, I have to watch it. No, I'm like, I have to watch the Lions and the Bears. After that, I don't really it could be on and I'll watch it, but I'm not gonna be like invested.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So Zach has the Bears winning, I have the Lions winning. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I do want the Bears to win. I don't want that out there. You want them to win.
No. Like, look, picks are knowledgeable picks. We're Bears fans either way, but like, come on. I'm not gonna knock. No one's gonna knock you for that. I hope no one does. Don't do that. We picked against the Bears many a time this year. So
yes. So hopefully they pull out the win. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Eat, take a nap, watch football, do whatever.
Try not to argue with your in-laws if you don't have to.
Make sure you bring up politics at the dinner table. Say what you believe.
You just want to throw hand grenades into the week.
Talk about how you voted for Trump. Talk about how you voted for Harris. I want you to bring all that up and have a conversation.
Spicy.
Whoops. Did not mean to put that comment up there. God bless. I had a perfect ending and I just ruined it.
No. The perfect ending's gone.
Well, thanks everybody. Now, make sure you like and subscribe to YouTube. If you're on Rumble, go follow that. It's on Rumble. Going to try to expand into that world as well. Obviously, it's on X all the time.
Yeah, at one point we had double-digit Rumble viewers, so a really good start, it seems.
Yeah, I'm going to try to dabble in that Rumble world. If anybody wants free work to make clips, please let me know for free because that's been the thorn in my backside here trying to make clips. They're not doing too. Let me rephrase this. Does anybody want free idea makers for names for these damn clips? Because I can make them. I figured out how to make them. It's coming up with a catchy title and the hashtags.
That's a challenge. I wish I could help you there. That's tough for real.
I figured out how to make them. I figured out how to move us around on it. I figured it all out. It's just the damn hashtags and the title because I'm old. I don't know what that is. So thanks everybody. We'll see you guys next time.